Vasil is live on the mainnet, Cardano turns 5 years old, updates on Mithril, and 3 different Cardano-focused conferences across the world all within a month of each other. It's time for the weekly report. Welcome back to Woodland Pools. Today, it's time for the weekly report. The last week of the month means Cardano 360. Let's jump in. First, I want to start off by saying a huge thank you and welcome to all of our newest delegators. We truly appreciate your support, and we're so excited to be on this journey with you. Let's keep growing together. So as always, we're going to cover the highlights of this month's 360, but if you want to dig into additional detail on any of these topics, check the description down below. We have links that'll send you straight to each of the different sections. So we started off with a development update with Kevin and Nigel. Obviously, the biggest update this month is the successful hard fork of Vasil on the 22nd of September. And the Vasil upgrade is actually rolled out to the Cardano mainnet across 2 epic boundaries back to back. On September 22nd, we had the major hard fork event, which brought in all of the new things that we've been expecting, with the exception of the Plutus version 2 upgrades, and those scripts came in on September 27th, 5 days later. But we are now fully in the Vasil era. Here's Kevin Hammond with a quick refresher on some of the highlights of the Vasil upgrade.
And the key things there are reference input, so we can refer to on-chain data and not have to repeatedly supply it within transactions. Inline datums, so that rather than hashing data items, we can refer to them directly, and that makes it much easier for people to see exactly what has been put on chain. And finally, very importantly, our reference scripts, which have a similar function to reference inputs, but allow us to refer to previously defined scripts and then to reuse them in many different transactions.
And if you want some more information on these Vasil enhancements, check out our video where we dug into them in detail. So the upgrades are in place, and some of them are going to take a little while to propagate as people work in the enhancements into their existing dApps, but some of the protocol scalability improvements are showing immediate results.
And in addition to that, of course, there have been some big improvements in performance and in terms of transaction cost. And I was particularly taken by a tweet by Rick Matraken, one of our community members, who is showing happy raindrops with network sync at 99% or better consistently, and block propagation times down to around 300 milliseconds from about 1600 milliseconds before the Vasil hard fork. So that's a consequence of these performance improvements that I mentioned to you earlier.
Next, there was a building on Cardano update with Genius Yield and DQuadrant. Now, DQuadrant seems really interesting. I hadn't heard of them before. They are a software development and IT services company. What I find interesting about DQuadrant, their Kuber API, which is open sourced, has the intent to make Haskell development specifically on Cardano significantly easier. And these infrastructure libraries can have a huge impact on software development. If your developers don't have to worry about really low-level concerns and can focus their attention more on solving actual bigger problems, then you can move at a much faster pace. Think about when you get into a car and you put your key into the ignition and you turn the car on. That's all you have to worry about. Everything else has been abstracted away for you. Imagine if instead what you had to do is when you sat down, you then had to look at the pattern on the key you were holding, compare it to the key pattern on the inside of the key ports in your car, make sure that they match up. If those two match up, then you would need to send a signal to the ignition and tell the ignition to turn on, and for how long. Once the ignition has successfully turned on the engine, then you can stop the ignition sequence, and then from there your car does whatever it is that cars do. I have no idea how cars work. But my point is that in the first case, all you had to do was just put the key in the ignition and turn it on. In the second scenario, you had to know all of the low-level details. With something like Kuber and something that enables developers to be able to write these solutions and focus just on turning the car on and then worry about what do I do with a running car, it's going to make things a lot easier. Next, really exciting news. IOG has opened a research hub at Stanford University.
We tried to find ways to create collaborations that would allow us to ask difficult problems and solve those problems. And there's a lot of amazing people at this university. And it got to a point where it made a lot of sense to set up a lab.
It's going actually to empower a lot of different academics from different areas to come together, prepare proposals, and then if they are approved, they will be funded and they will be able to perform them and investigate the respective problems that they've identified, and at the end, disseminate them widely in the spirit of free and open academic research.
The time has come to begin to standardize and create a common vocabulary and ultimately a common set of solutions that works for everybody. So we view this lab in particular as a major step forward in kind of the cross-blockchain communication, the cross-ecosystem communication, and our hope is that the work here can standardize many things for the coming years and decades.
Continuing on the theme where if we make it easier for developers to build things, then the whole ecosystem grows, IOG has recognized that while they have the Plutus Pioneer program, several students were struggling because their Haskell fundamentals weren't where they should be to be able to then take it to the next level and apply Haskell to smart contracts in the blockchain. So they've now released a free, fully online, and self-paced Haskell Bootcamp. So if you want to learn Haskell on your way to learning Plutus, check this out and we'll link it down below. We continued on with an update on Mithril. Mithril now has a testnet where stake pool operators are working with the IOG team, giving feedback on the process to get nodes up and running and working as signers to create snapshots. The code for Mithril has also been open sourced, and the next steps from IOG are setting up additional staging and test environments and working on a more predictable release schedule so that all the different teams that are working with it and testing it know when to look for breaking changes. And it's really cool to see the progression of this going from a closed project that IOG is working on and seeing the scenarios for the testing getting closer and closer to what we're going to see on the mainnet. We'll keep you posted as we hear more. We got a reminder from the Cardano Foundation that the Cardano Summit will be in Switzerland from November 19th to the 21st. I'm curious, for those of you that are close to Switzerland, who's actually going to the summit. I'm seriously considering going. If you guys are going to be there, I'll probably head out and meet you. If you want to register to attend in person or remotely, come to summit.cardano.org and you can attend the main stage or attend virtually and sign up for more information. If you are planning on attending in person, make sure that you register now, because while the events, aside from the dinner, are all free, they do have limited capacity and so they will sell out. If you can't make it to Switzerland, there are 2 events going on in the United States within a week of each other. First is CNFTCon the weekend of October 7th, and then there is the RareBloom event here in warm, sunny Colorado on the weekend of October 14th and 15th. I won't be able to make CNFTCon, but I will be driving over to RareBloom, so those of you in the States, definitely make sure you come out and join us here in Denver, Colorado. And finally, this month, Cardano turned 5 years old. There was a whole section dedicated to Cardano's 5th anniversary. We'll let you check it out. Let us know what you're most excited about this month. And if nothing else, we'll see you next week.